In 323 BC, the most powerful man in the world walked into a party. He drank a lot, then he drank even more. Then he got a fever. Then he died. He was 32. And just like that, the largest empire the world had ever seen up to this point had no one in charge. But what if he hadn't died? What if Alexander the Great had just not done that? Let's back up. Alexander was born in 356 BC in Macedonia, which is in northern Greece, which his father Philip II had basically turned into a military machine designed to conquer everyone. Philip was doing a great job of this until one of his own bodyguards stabbed him at a wedding. Alexander was 20 years old. "So," said Alexander, looking around at the room full of very nervous generals. "I'm king now?" "Yes," they said. "And my main competition just got stabbed at his own wedding?" "Also yes." "Cool. How do you do this job?" Within 2 years, he had crushed a rebellion in Greece, burned the city of Thebes to the ground as a message to everyone else, and crossed into Asia with 40,000 men to take on the Persian Empire, which had roughly 10 times as many soldiers. Clearly he had an idea how to be king. His advisor suggested this was perhaps not a great idea. Alexander disagreed. He was right. By 331 BC, he had destroyed the Persian army at the Battle of Gaugamela, walked into Babylon like he owned it, because now he did, burned the Persian royal palace at Persepolis, and declared himself king of Asia. His old tutor Aristotle reportedly received a letter around this time that simply said, "Teacher, I did it, Alexander." Aristotle probably sat down, poured himself a large drink. Then Alexander kept going. He pushed east into what is now Afghanistan and Pakistan, fighting mountain tribes, founding cities, all named Alexandria, because why not? And generally refusing to stop conquering things. In 326 BC, he reached the Indus River in modern-day India and fought King Porus at the Battle of the Hydaspes. He won, but his army, which had been marching for 8 years and sleeping in tents, looked at the vast Indian subcontinent ahead of them and said collectively, but there's more to conquer," said Alexander. "We know," said his general Conus. "We'd just really like to see our families before they forget what we look like. What if I said there was a giant ocean to the east and beyond it, the edge of the world? We'd say that sounds like something a person says when they want us to keep marching." Alexander reportedly sulked in his tent for 3 days. Then he turned around. He marched his army back west through the Gedrosian desert, which killed a quarter of them through heat and starvation, reached Babylon in 323 BC, started planning his next campaign, threw a party, drank an enormous amount, got a fever, and died. The cause of death is still debated. Typhoid fever, poisoning, excessive drinking, possibly all three at once, which is honestly a very Alexander way to go. He was 32. He had conquered more land than anyone in history. He had never lost a battle. He left no clear heir. The whole thing immediately fell apart. But what if it hadn't? Here is where history changes. It's June 323 BC. Alexander is at the party. He drinks the wine. He starts to feel sick. In our timeline, he gets worse and dies 11 days later. But in this timeline, his doctor, a man named Glaucius, notices something different. Now here's a real historical fact. Ancient Macedonian physicians had actually studied Egyptian and Babylonian medicine, which included the use of specific herbs and cooling treatments for fever. Glaucius, instead of doing nothing useful, forces Alexander to drink enormous amounts of water, applies cold compresses, and makes him rest. Actually rest for 2 weeks. "You need to stop moving," said Glaucius. "I have a campaign to plan," said Alexander. "You have a fever of what I estimate to be extremely high. I've had fevers before. You've also almost died before, several times, from arrows, swords, a rock to the head. You are not as immortal as you think you are. I conquered Persia. Persia isn't going to unconquer itself if you drink some water." Alexander grumbled. He drank the water, he rested, he lived. And everything changed. The first thing Alexander does when he recovers is solve his succession problem. The reason his empire fell apart so fast was simple. He had no son. Well, he had one on the way. His wife Roxanne was pregnant. But babies take time, and Alexander didn't have time. And then he died. But in our timeline, he lives. Roxanne gives birth to a boy, Alexander the Fourth. Alexander throws a party. A smaller one this time, with less wine. His doctor is physically present and glaring. "To my son," says Alexander, raising a cup. "That's water," says Glaucius. "I know," says Alexander, with barely concealed fury. "I just want to make sure you know. I know what water tastes like, Glaucius. You seemed surprised last time. Now he has an heir. Now he has time. And Alexander, being Alexander, immediately starts planning. Alexander's actual documented next plan before he died was to conquer Arabia. He had a fleet of 1,000 ships being built in Babylon. He was going to sail around the Arabian Peninsula, establish trade routes, and probably conquer the whole thing. In our timeline, he died before launching. In our timeline, we continue. He launches. Arabia in 322 BC is not a unified kingdom. It's a collection of tribal territories and small kingdoms. The Nabateans control the north. Various tribes control the rest. Alexander, who had beaten the Persian Empire, was not particularly worried about tribal confederacies. He wasn't wrong to not be worried. Within 3 years, he controls the Arabian coast, the trade routes, and most importantly, he now has a navy that actually works. "This navy is excellent," said Alexander, sailing somewhere in the Persian Gulf. "Thank you," said his admiral Nearchus, who had been saying this for years and was visibly emotional. "We should have done this earlier. I literally said that. Those words to you, with my mouth. I don't remember that. Alexander, I don't remember it. I'm going to go check on the ships." Now here's where it gets interesting. Control of Arabia means control of the trade routes between the Mediterranean and India. Spices, silk, gold. All of it flows through Alexander's territory now. His treasury, already massive from looting Persia, becomes almost incomprehensibly wealthy. This money is going to matter very soon. With Arabia secure, Alexander looks east. His generals look at each other. "He's going to do it," said Ptolemy. "He's definitely going to do it," said Seleucus. "Should someone tell him the men really, genuinely do not want to go back? You tell him. I'm not telling him. You tell him. Why me? Because I value my continued existence." No one told him. Alexander's pitch to his army this time was different. He wasn't asking them to march into the unknown. He was asking them to finish what they'd started. And this time, he had something he hadn't had at the Hydaspes. A legitimate reason the men would believe in. "The Indian kingdoms are rich," said Alexander at the assembly. "We know this. We have seen it. And I am told that beyond the Ganges River, there are kingdoms that make Persia look poor." This was partially true. The Nanda Empire in the Ganges Plain was extraordinarily wealthy. The army murmured. "Also," said Alexander, "anyone who comes gets a share of the loot." The army cheered. His general Craterus, in the back, quietly put his head in his hands and thought about retirement. Here's the thing though. Alexander's second India campaign would have been fundamentally different from what he attempted in 326 BC. For one, he had ships now. He could supply his army by river. For two, the Nanda Empire, which had terrified his veterans with rumors of 200,000 soldiers and 6,000 war elephants, was actually in political trouble. Internal revolts were already brewing. The same revolts that would eventually lead to Chandragupta Maurya, overthrowing them just a few years later in our timeline. Alexander arrives at exactly the right moment. He forms an alliance with Chandragupta, or rather he co-opts Chandragupta's rebellion, supplies it with Macedonian military training and Greek siege equipment, and together they dismantle the Nanda Empire from the inside. "We make good partners," said Chandragupta. "Yes," said Alexander. "Equal partners?" Alexander did the smile he did when he was absolutely not going to answer the question directly. Sure, Chandragupta knew what that meant, but he also now had a kingdom. He took the deal. The Ganges Plain falls by approximately 316 BC. Alexander founds 12 more cities named Alexandria. Chandragupta quietly names his capital Pataliputra and does not name it after Alexander. Alexander does not notice. He is already looking at a map. While Alexander has been busy conquering Arabia and India, something has been happening in the west. Rome. In 323 BC, Rome was a mid-sized republic on the Italian peninsula. It's fighting the Samnites. It's competent, disciplined, and expanding. In our timeline, Alexander had reportedly said before dying that he intended to conquer the western Mediterranean after Arabia, Carthage, North Africa, Spain, and Italy. His general Seleucus once asked him directly, "After Arabia, where next?" "West," said Alexander. "How far west?" "All the way. That includes Rome." "I know. Rome is... they're different. They fight differently. They think differently. They have a whole system. Everyone says that before I arrive," said Alexander. "Then I arrive." Seleucus made a mental note to start learning Latin just in case. Here's the historical reality. Alexander's army, at its peak, was the finest military force that had ever existed. His companion cavalry, his Macedonian phalanx, his use of combined arms tactics, no one in the Mediterranean world had anything that could match it. Rome in 315 BC was powerful regionally. Against Alexander? Historians have genuinely debated this for 2,000 years, and the general consensus is it would have been close. But Alexander probably wins. Alexander crossed into Italy around 312 BC. He fights the Romans. It is not easy. Rome fights differently from everyone he has faced. They don't break when their center gets hit. Their legions are flexible. When one unit gets flanked, another fills the gap. After the first engagement, a draw, Alexander returns to camp and looks thoughtful. "Well," said Ptolemy. "They're good," said Alexander. "Good? How?" "Different good. They don't fight like Persians. They don't fight like Indians. They fight like they genuinely don't believe they can lose, which is extremely annoying because that's my thing. Should we be worried? No," said Alexander. "But we should study them. Carefully, extensively. Tonight." Ptolemy looked at the pile of scrolls being brought in. "You're enjoying this. I'm not enjoying this. You have the face you make when you're enjoying something. I don't have a face. You absolutely have a face." Alexander being Alexander, studying them meant spending 3 weeks adjusting his tactics, running drills his veterans found insulting, and then hitting Rome again. The second battle goes differently. Rome loses. "We lost," said the Roman consul, sitting in a tent covered in dust. "Yes," said his legate, "to Greeks. Macedonians, technically. They find the distinction important. Are we surrendering? Rome doesn't surrender. Right, yes, of course. So what do? We make a new army and try again. Right. He's going to win, isn't he? I think win might be the wrong word. I think he's going to keep going until there's nowhere left to go. That's worse. Yes, Rome does not surrender. They never surrender. It takes 3 more major battles and 7 years before Rome finally negotiates. And here is the twist. Alexander does not destroy Rome. He's not interested in destroying Rome. He never destroyed things he found impressive. He incorporated them. He offers Rome a deal. Keep your institutions, keep your senate, keep your laws. Become part of the empire, contribute soldiers, get access to the richest trading network in the world. The Romans argued about this for 6 months. Then they agree. Alexander enters Rome.